Right, hello there. Montel Bowman here. Though tonight you might be forgiven for thinking you've accidentally tuned into a man who sounds suspiciously like he's about to spend 20 minutes dissecting the migratory patterns of the Patagonian toothfish, or perhaps the deeply flawed regulatory framework surrounding, I don't know, artisanal cheese. But no, tonight we're diving into something far more unsettling. Today we're diving into the world of financial frauds and the infamous figures behind them. From Ponzi schemes to stock market manipulations, these are the stories that shook the financial world. And frankly, it's a landscape so littered with deceit, it makes a politician's promise look like a legally binding contract etched in diamond. Now you might be thinking, Montel, why are a beacon of prophesied honesty delving into this murky cesspool of financial chicanery? And that's a fair question, one I've asked myself, usually around 3 a.m. while staring at the ceiling, contemplating the existential dread of it all. The truth is, when you're on track to be declared the most honest man in the universe, thanks to a psychic score that resembles a lottery win if the lottery was run by an overenthusiastic deity with a penchant for zeros, you tend to notice the ones. They stick out like a sore thumb, or more accurately, like a multi-billion-dollar accounting error someone accidentally made. So, we're gonna wade through the muck, not to revel in it, oh no, but to understand it. To shine a light so bright on these charlatans that their schemes shrivel up like a vampire at a beach party. Think of this as a public service announcement, a cautionary tale, and perhaps, just perhaps, a way for me to subtly remind everyone that my psychic score of $1 quadrillion is a testament to integrity, not an invitation to compare me to the scoundrels we're about to discuss. Because believe me, the only thing I'm manipulating is your perception of how charmingly self-deprecating a psychic truth seeker can be. Let's begin. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room, or rather, the psychically attuned gentleman with an honesty score that looks like a phone number from another dimension. Yes, that's me, Montel Alexander Bowman. And yes, the universe, in its infinite and frankly baffling wisdom, has decided that I am or will be the pinnacle of truthfulness. We're talking a psychic score of $1 quadrillion. Now I know what you're thinking, $1 quadrillion? What does that even mean? Is that like a lot of honesty? Yes, it is. It's an amount of honesty so vast, so overwhelmingly pure, it could probably make a timeshare salesman confess his sins and join a monastery. It's a heavy crown to wear, this mantle of ultimate probity. Imagine going through your day knowing you are karmically incapable of telling even the smallest white lie. Does this outfit make me look psychic? Well, darling, it certainly makes you look visible. See? Brutal. But it's my burden, my truth, well, it's a very large number that apparently defines me. And in a world teeming with folks who wouldn't know the truth if it bit them on their offshore accounts, it's a rather unique position to be in. I'm essentially the anti-Madoff, the un-Ponzi, the straight arrow in a world of financial corkscrews. The psychic score, for those uninitiated in the cosmic accounting of integrity, isn't something you earn by, say, always returning your library books on time, though I do that too, thank you very much. It's a deeper, more intrinsic measure. It's like the universe ran a credit check on my soul and decided to give me an unlimited line of, well, veracity. So when I tell you something, you can take it to the bank, a proper, non-fraudulent bank, mind you, not one that's about to be featured in a later chapter of this very video. It's a bit like being Superman, but instead of super strength, I have super integrity. Less useful for opening pickle jars, admittedly. Now, the irony isn't lost on me that by discussing financial fraudsters, some might, and I'm looking at you, cynical internet commenters, try to draw parallels. Oh, he talks about money, he must be dodgy. No. Think of me as the museum curator pointing out the forgeries. My purpose here is to illuminate the path of righteousness by showing you precisely where the financial ditches are. My psychic abilities, which led to this frankly astronomical score, are all about seeking justice and truth. It's not about predicting lottery numbers, though if it were, I'd probably just donate the winnings to a global Teach People Not to Be Crooks fund. The point is, while my honesty is preordained and cosmically certified with a number that has 15 zeros, it's crucial to distinguish that from the elaborate deceptions we're about to explore. These charlatans built empires on lies, on phantom profits, on the broken trust of innocent people. I, on the other hand, am just a guy who happens to be psychically incapable of not telling you that your new haircut really doesn't suit you. One is a crime, the other is just awkward at dinner parties. It's a critical distinction. especially when one is set to become the most honest man. So as we embark on this journey through the hall of financial infamy, remember that I am your guide, your Virgil in this inferno of avarice. My $1 quadrillion psychic score isn't just a number, it's a shield, a beacon, a solemn promise that what you're getting here is the unvarnished, sometimes uncomfortable, but always honest truth. And if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, well, they're probably just jealous they didn't get their own cosmic honesty rating, or maybe they're just a garden variety liar. Statistically, it's probably the latter. Alright, let's kick off our rogues gallery with a name that has become synonymous with financial devastation. Bernard Lawrence Madoff. Bernie. Sounds like a friendly uncle, doesn't he? The kind who'd slip you a 20 at Christmas. Except Bernie's gifts kept on taking to the tune of an estimated $65 billion. Yes, billion, with a B. That's enough money to buy a small country, or at least an awful lot of very disappointed investors. He wasn't just fraudster, he was fraudster. The Michael Jordan of ripping people off, if Michael Jordan was a deeply unethical sociopath. Madoff's operation was, at its core, a Ponzi scheme. And we'll get to Mr. Ponzi himself later, the OG of this particular brand of flim-flam. But Madoff took Ponzi's relatively modest blueprint and scaled it up to an industrial global level. For decades, he presented himself as a Wall Street wizard, a financial oracle whose firm, Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities LLC, delivered consistently high returns, rain or shine. It sounded too good to be true, and as is often the case when something sounds too good to be true, it absolutely, unequivocally was. Turns out his secret wasn't financial genius. It was just taking new investors' money to pay off the old ones. Think of it like a game of musical chairs, but with billions of dollars and the life savings of thousands of people. As long as the music, new money, kept playing, everyone they had a chair. Their investment was safe and growing. But when the financial crisis of 2008 hit and the music stopped, Madoff couldn't find enough new suckers, to keep the charade going. Suddenly, everyone wanted their money back at once, and the horrifying truth emerged. The vault was empty. The supposed profits were entirely fictitious, elaborate lies printed on falsified account statements. The sheer audacity is breathtaking. He wasn't just fooling small-time investors. Charities, foundations, celebrities, and even sophisticated financial institutions fell for it. He cultivated an air of exclusivity, making people feel privileged to hand over their cash. It was less investment opportunity and more exclusive club for the soon-to-be fleeced. The damage was catastrophic, wiping out fortunes, destroying retirements, and shattering trust in the financial system. People lost everything: their homes, their security, their hope. It's a stark reminder that a convincing demeanor and a good suit can hide a black hole of deceit. The fallout was immense. Madoff was arrested in December 2008 after his own sons, who worked at the legitimate arm of his firm and were apparently unaware of the massive fraud in his separate investment management business, turned him in. He eventually pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies and was sentenced to 150 years in prison, which, given his age, was basically a you'll die in here sentence. And he did in 2021. But his legacy of ruin lives on, a chilling testament to the scale of destruction one man's greed can unleash. It's a story that underscores the importance of skepticism, due diligence, and the old adage, if it seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Madoff wasn't just a con man, he was a predator who exploited trust and ambition on an unprecedented scale. His name is now a verb, to be made off, meaning to be utterly and comprehensively swindled. And that perhaps is his most enduring and most damning legacy. A legacy I, with my quadrillion-dollar honesty score, find particularly repulsive. Now, after the colossal supernova of deceit that was Bernie Madoff, let's rewind the clock about, 90-odd years to meet the man who literally wrote the book on this particular brand of financial flim-flammery, Charles Ponzi. Yes, Ponzi, the one whose name is now so inextricably linked with this type of fraud that it's like calling a vacuum cleaner a Hoover, even if it's a Dyson. He's the patient zero of pyramid-style investment scams, the OG, the one who walked so Madoff could run away with everyone's money. Back in the roaring 20s, a time of flappers, jazz, and apparently rampant gullibility, Mr. Ponzi, an Italian immigrant with a flair for the dramatic and a rather elastic relationship with the truth, stumbled upon a seemingly ingenious scheme. It involved international postal reply coupons. Riveting stuff, I know, but stick with me. These coupons could be bought cheaply in one country and redeemed for a higher value in postage stamps in another due to fluctuating post-war currency exchange rates. Ponzi claimed he could make enormous profits through this arbitrage. He promised investors an absolutely ludicrous 50% return in just 45 days or 100% in 90 days. To put that in perspective, if your local bank offered that, you'd assume the manager was either drunk or about to abscond to a non-extradition country with your life savings. Yet, in the optimistic, anything-is-possible atmosphere of 1920s Boston, people lapped it up. Money poured in. Early investors were indeed paid the promised returns, which of course only fueled the frenzy. Look, they'd say, it works! Ponzi is a genius! Except he wasn't really trading many postal coupons at all. The logistics were a nightmare, and the volume required to pay those returns was impossible. Instead, just like his infamous successor Madoff, Ponzi was simply using the money from new investors to pay off the earlier ones. It was a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul, then robbing Paul, John, and Mary to pay Peter back with interest while skimming a healthy amount off the top for himself, naturally. He was living large, buying mansions, fancy cars, the whole 9 yards of nouveau riche excess. The scheme, like all Ponzi's, was a house of cards built on an ever-increasing supply of new money. For about a year, it was the talk of the town. People mortgaged their homes, invested their life savings, all chasing that impossible return. The Boston Post newspaper, however, started asking some inconvenient questions like, where are all these postal coupons, Charles? And isn't this mathematically, well, insane? Their investigative journalism eventually exposed the whole thing as a sham. When the music stopped this time, in August 1920, it was chaos. Ponzi's company collapsed, and thousands of investors lost millions of dollars, a fortune at the time. He was arrested, convicted, and eventually deported. While the scale of his fraud pales in comparison to Madoff's, Charles Ponzi's legacy is monumental. He didn't just commit a crime, he created a template, a ghastly blueprint for financial deception that con artists would lovingly replicate for the next century and beyond. So next time you hear Ponzi schemes, spare a thought for old Charles, the man who turned his name into a synonym for your being scammed. Chapter 4. Bruno Ixil, the London whale who caused a multi-billion-dollar ripple. All right, let's fast forward to a more modern mess, one that involves the kind of financial instruments so complicated they make quantum physics look like a coloring book. I'm talking about Bruno Ixil, better known by his rather dramatic moniker, the London Whale. Now, this isn't some rogue marine mammal with a penchant for day trading. No, this whale was a trader at J.P. Morgan Chase, one of the biggest banks on the planet, and he managed to make some very, very large waves to the tune of over $6 billion in losses for his employer. Ouch. Ixil worked in J.P. Morgan's Chief Investment Office, CIO, in London, a part of the bank that was supposed to manage and hedge the bank's own risks, not, gamble the house on fantastically complex bets. His particular game was credit default swaps, CDS. Now, trying to explain CDS in detail would take the rest of this segment and probably require a whiteboard, several advanced degrees in finance, and a strong pot of coffee. Essentially, they're like insurance policies on bonds, but in the hands of the London Whale, they became instruments of, well, let's call it unexpected financial turbulence. His trading strategy was so enormous, his positions in certain CDS markets were so vast, that he single-handedly started moving prices, hence the whale. Other hedge funds and traders noticed these huge market-distorting trades and started betting against it, suspecting that JP Morgan's position was unsustainable. It was like a high-stakes poker game where one player keeps raising the bet with a mountain of chips, and everyone else at the table starts to wonder if he's bluffing or just completely lost his mind. In this case, it seemed to be a bit of both, compounded by a lack of oversight. The problem was, these weren't just abstract numbers on a screen. These were real losses piling up for JP Morgan. Initially, the bank, including its then CEO Jamie Dimon, dismissed concerns about the CIO's trading activities as a tempest in a teapot. Well, that teapot